The English language, a beautiful collection of the most interesting words,
demure, elision, effervescent,
the most romantic poems.
She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies.
And of course, some of the most famous stories ever told.
Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
Yes, the English language, which is believed to date back as early as the 5th century, has now become the de facto international language spoken by countries all around the world.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General.
In fact, if you include all first and second language speakers of English, that number totals over 1.4 billion, putting it in first place as the most spoken language around the world. Therefore, it is no surprise that a modern international country such as Taiwan puts a heavy emphasis on learning English from a very early age. In fact, although government regulations dictate that English learning is only compulsory from elementary grade 3 and up, many parents put their kids into English language kindergartens from as young as 2 or 3 years old.
Daddy, I'm here.
So, despite the fact that this is technically illegal, parents and government officials often overlook the legality of this in order to give their kids an advantage when learning this international language of the world. Now, for me, as a long-time resident of Taiwan that taught in the English system here for 12 years, and of course, as an even longer time native speaker of English, I have a very strong opinion on Taiwan's English teaching system. And while I really enjoyed my time as an English teacher here, I believe there are several key areas where Taiwan's English education system is failing the students here, and several improvements that could be made in order to help Taiwan catch up with some of the more proficient English-speaking Asian neighbors. The first of which is how Taiwan's English teaching system is focused too much on testing and providing parents with quantitative feedback on the level of their kids' English, which, as I discovered as a teacher, is incredibly difficult to provide a percentage score for a kid's English due to the fact that English is an art rather than a science. Now, of course, there does need to be some kind of testing system, as there was for me when I learned English in school back in the UK. But the incredibly strong focus on testing here means that there is much less flexibility within the English system here for creativity and the flexibility of language. As I just mentioned, English and language in general is an art much more than it is a science. But generally speaking, in Taiwan, many parents put much less importance on art-based subjects compared to the science-based subjects. So the whole system is like one big contradiction. They want their kids to do well in English class to help them with career options in future, but the way they judge their kids' English performance is solely based on the percentage points the kids score in their English quizzes. As many of the parents don't speak English as well as their kids do, it's impossible for them to see the qualitative results of the kids' ability to express themselves and be creative and adaptive with the English that they have learned in school. Yes, grammar tests and spelling quizzes are important, but I had so many students that scored poorly in these tests, despite the fact that their confidence and personalities in English were far more communicative than some of the students who just swatted up on spelling and grammar in order to score higher in their quizzes, but couldn't hold even a very basic conversation with me when it came time for free talking in class and around the school. So, talking of creative freedom and the flexibility of language, this brings me onto an online learning platform that can really help you boost your English level in as short a time as possible, whilst learning some English words and phrases that you will not learn in any textbooks currently on the market. The Hahao English course from Haosuishao is an awesome online English class hosted by my fellow YouTubers Hailey and Adam. I'm sure you'll know them well, as they have an incredibly popular YouTube channel here in Taiwan in which they not only speak awesome Chinese,
So 这真的是我们每天用到的俚语，不只是我们，是身边所有年纪都会用到的。
but also very clear, well-spoken, native English.
And Adam's gonna give us an apartment tour.
Probably much more clear than my weird northern British half South African English you get on my channel. But yes, Hailey and Adam have spent the last 18 months putting together an awesome online course sharing the 100 most common, newest, most up-to-date words, idioms and phrases that they have picked up from TV shows, movies, and just from their daily life in America that will instantly allow you to start speaking more like a native speaker than you would even believe is possible. When I looked through some of the words and phrases that they have chosen and included in their course, I saw so many things that I of course totally understand but have never seen taught in the class or books or magazines that are available when learning English here in Taiwan. Words and phrases that I totally took for granted as an English teacher, a native speaking English teacher, but would be blown away by if I heard a Taiwanese second language speaker using such things. This course really is perfect for people looking to learn the English that native speakers such as myself and Hailey and Adam use on a daily basis when communicating with our native speaking friends.
A huge part of this course will be teaching you how to modify these slang terms so that you can use them and recognize them correctly.
There's links in the description down below, so go check it out and get your English boosted with two of Taiwan's most popular YouTubers. Now back to the topic of Taiwan's English education system, and as I mentioned earlier, compulsory English education doesn't come into government curriculum until grade 3 when the kids are about 9, maybe 10 years old. Funnily enough, same age as my son, who's currently over in South Africa studying there because I chose to take him out of Taiwan's education system. One of the reasons being that I disagree with the way they do many things, and if you want to know more about that, there's a video up in the corner where I talk in much more detail about my reasons for taking my son out of Taiwan's education system and sending him back to South Africa. But anyway, yes, as I also mentioned, English education is available from as early as 2 or 3 years old in kindergarten. So this means that when the government schools start teaching English in class, then there's some kids that have had kindergarten education level English, some kids have had cram school English education, and some kids who have had neither, no English education whatsoever. Meaning that in a class of 30 to 40 kids, there's going to be a huge variation in their English level, and as such, the teacher, who is usually Taiwanese with perhaps a lower standard of English than might be found in some cram schools, is facing a huge struggle to keep all of the kids literally on the same page. Of course, what should happen is that the kids should be graded according to their ability and split up into ability-based classes for English. But with the time pressures and logistic issues, this often doesn't happen, and as such, most of the kids find the English in government school either too easy for what they've already learned or too difficult as they've not learned enough. And as such, the kids and the teachers are wasting a lot of their time. Therefore, parents usually put more focus on cram school education for English, which brings me on to my next point, and that's the incredibly volatile world of English bushy bands, ancient bands, cram schools, whatever you want to call them, and how they can seriously affect the English education of Taiwanese students. I was lucky enough to work for 12 years for the same cram school, where I saw hundreds, maybe thousands of kids pass through the doors, many of whom managed to pick up a basic, decent enough level of English. However, I was definitely luckier than most of my foreign teaching friends here in Taiwan that also worked in cram schools because they had some horror stories to share. Outdated books, cramped, dark classrooms, and teachers that just didn't care are a common feature of many cram schools that are often treated more like babysitting facilities by parents as opposed to a center of education. It's often just more convenient to send your kids to cram school while you go to work. You don't need to pay a babysitter. And also, many cram schools are judged by the parents on the kids' performance in the government school's English testing system. I remember a feeling of fear or nervousness around exam time when kids would be asked by their cram school teacher how they had performed in their school's English quizzes, because the Taiwanese teachers in my cram school knew that if the kids had performed badly in the government school's English quizzes, then there would be interrogations from the parents as to why they were paying so much money to the cram school for the English education only for their kids to fail the government school English test. So even if the cram school had the most beautiful, creative syllabus for the kids to enjoy, it was often overlooked, and teachers would focus on cramming the government school's English syllabus into the kids' heads instead. In my opinion, it is really difficult to find a cram school that prepares the kids for actually communicating in English naturally and with native native speakers, because most of them focus on just getting good grades in the government school quiz, rather than actually how to communicate and be expressive with the language. Talking of being expressive with the language, I used to love it when my students would try something different in English. Maybe they would try to translate a Chinese joke into the English language for me, and I'd reward that kind of creativity and encourage it. But I just feel a level of pressure on the students here, and indeed the pressure on the teachers too, just limits the creativity the kids are allowed to express with language, especially when it comes to English. They are reminded too often about the need to study verb tenses, grammar rules, spellings, and all of the boring parts of language, that their creative freedom is more often than not taken away and quashed, rather than being allowed to flourish as language learning should allow for. Shakespeare himself would never have been so popular and famous if he'd have stuck to the strict grammatical rules of English. So I believe the biggest gift we can give to our kids when learning a language is the freedom to express themselves while bending some rules occasionally. Of course, we don't want to go breaking too many rules, but bending the rules is how the phonetic languages such as English develop and evolve very differently to the pictograph languages such as Chinese, which because of its nature is a language that has less creative freedom to bend the rules. I'm gonna get shouted at in the comment section for saying that. I'm not a linguist, so I may be a bit wrong on that, but I do know that English evolves and changes much more than Chinese does, so perhaps that's where a lot of the differences are coming from when I talk about this kind of thing. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that kids will always want to experiment and test the limits and push boundaries in everything that they do, and language is one of them. There are always new slang words and phrases being created by kids that become a part of language eventually, and just to get back to how English, their English course will bring a new world of these newer, more modern slang words and idioms into your vocabulary to make you sound much more native than your friends and co-workers that have not taken the course will do. So there's a couple of things from my opinion why I think Taiwan's education system when it comes to English is somewhat lacking compared to the way that I studied when I was back in school in the UK. Of course, this is a very subjective opinion. You are going to have your opinion too, which I welcome in the comment section down below. I know a lot of people do agree that Taiwan's education system is very testing intense, so I'm sure some people will agree with me on that. But also, what opinion do you have on Taiwan's education system? Do you think there's something that I missed? Do you think there's something that Taiwan does better than the West? Whatever you've got to say, please let me know in the comment section down below. Just a quick video from home today, as I really wanted to introduce Hailey and Adam's teaching course to you guys. It's always good to see fellow YouTubers expanding themselves, developing themselves, and providing something to Taiwan that can really help Taiwan to move forwards. So I'm really happy to partner up with them and promote their How English course to you guys. But I think it's time to say goodbye. So thanks for watching. As for now, as always, I'll see you next time in My Life in Taiwan. Peace. Bye bye.